Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. The dragon Qin followed the river upstream for 6,000 miles. Qin Mu raised his head to take a look at that time. The sky was already getting dark, so he immediately surveyed his surroundings to look for a place he could settle. On the geological map of Great Ruins, there should be a place called Monster Management Palace. Maybe it's a place where I can seek shelter. Qin Mu recalled the geological map of Great Ruins and found his bearings. Suddenly, his eyes lighted up, and he ordered the dragon Qin to go ashore. Not long later, they found the ruins of a palace, with some strange beasts already hiding there. Qin Mu entered the ruins of Monster Management Palace and saw many skeletons of huge beasts all around. They were very quiet, not moving even when he entered. Qin Mu raised his head to size them up. The skeleton of the huge beasts in Monster Management Palace was simply too humongous. They were dozens of times bigger than the dragon Qilin's transformation. If they were still alive, they would be 3,000 yards tall and be like moving mountains. Not long later, a couple Taoists came to the ruins, who were probably experts who had come into Great Ruins for experience. When they saw Qin Mu, they revealed astonishment, but they remained silent, setting their own fire to cook their meals. Qin Mu cooked up a few dishes and ate dinner before lying down beside the dragon Qilin to sleep. The couple Taoists looked at one another but remained silent. They wrote words on the ground, and as they did that, the ground suddenly trembled. Bellows came from outside, and obscure and hard-to-understand voices spoke from the darkness, sounding like devil gods whispering to each other. Qin Mu sat up and saw the skeletons of the huge beasts suddenly shine brilliantly with divine light. The tremors of the ground grew more and more violent, and he saw the huge beasts suddenly raising their legs from the ground. These skeletons seemed to have come alive, for they walked out of the ruins. World-shaking roars came from outside, and there was divine light shining over through the darkness once in a while. Through these divine lights, those inside could see that the huge beasts had actually grown flesh and transformed into beast gods that were fighting with the devil monsters in the darkness. The Taoists were bewildered, and Qin Devil King was also shocked. Qin Mu wasn't surprised by these strange sights and lay back down again. He then said in a low voice, "Qin, stop looking, I've seen weirder things." Qin Devil King said quietly, "Those Taoists are slightly weird." Qin Mu was unconcerned. "I know. One of them is Long Jiaonan." After a moment, he began snoring, and Qin Devil King could only restrain himself from making a move. The battle outside the ruins lasted the whole night. When dawn came, the ground trembled as the indomitable divine beasts returned back to the ruins. Once they sprawled onto the ground, their flesh vanished. They turned into the skeletons that lay half buried in the soil, which was exactly how Qin Mu had seen them when he entered. The darkness retreated back like the flood, and sunlight shone down from the sky. The other strange beasts moved out from the ruins and dispersed in all directions. Qin Mu made fire again to cook breakfast while the other Taoists did the same as well. All of them did not say a word and ate their own breakfast. The dragon Qilin took out the wash basin from disabled elderly village which he had somehow hidden for this long and placed it in front of Qin Mu to wait for his food. Qin Mu poured half a bucket of scarlet fire spirit pills and took out another wash basin, pouring half of it with Jade Dragon Lake's water. The dragon Qilin ate to his fulfillment, and they set off. The Taoists looked at one another, then extinguished the fire and followed closely behind Qin Mu. He stopped at that moment and turned around with a smile. "Is there anything I can help senior brothers with?" One of the Taoists retorted, "Great Ruins are so huge, is this your home? We'll go our way and you will go yours, no one is interfering with you." Qin Mu smiled and continued forward. They had set off earlier today, so they reached the end of Surging River before sunset. Qin Mu saw a dilapidated village nearby, and his eyes lighted up. He made the dragon Qilin head over. The Taoists followed him in and saw that this village was in ruins. Spiderwebs were everywhere, and even the stone statues had been worn out by time. What was weird was that all the other ruins had strange beasts seeking shelter from the darkness, but there wasn't even one here. The Taoists were bewildered. Long Jianan, who was a beautiful female Daoist now, said in low voice, "There's something weird about this place." As she was saying it, darkness descended, and the temperature turned abnormally cold. A lonely boat floated over leisurely from another world with a lamp hanging at its bow. Under the lamp was an elder who was folding paper humans, paper horses, and paper boats. That elder came to the village and disembarked. Everyone shuddered as they felt their souls freeze over. The elder placed down a paper boat which floated away. One of the Taoists instantly noticed he had somehow landed onto that paper boat which sailed weightlessly towards the darkness. Astonished, he immediately looked over to see another him still sitting in the village. That was his shell. Tao brother. Qin Mu executed Saturn's sovereign Earth Marquis technique and transformed into a human-headed and snake-bodied form. The gate of heaven influence appeared behind his back as he greeted the elder. After saying a phrase in Udu's language, he took out the portraits of village chief, apothecary, and the rest to ask, "May I ask Tao brother if you have seen them before?" The elder took a look and nodded. "I've met them before. They came to me to ask for directions." Fear arose in the heart of the Taoists in the village. This elder was standing right in front of them, but they couldn't see his face. Even though they were so close to him, the facial features of this elder were extremely blurry. They used all kinds of third eye, but they still couldn't see him clearly. It seemed like he wasn't a living person. Duqian Devil King also kept quiet out of fear and didn't dare to make a sound. This elder was Udu's messenger of death, a god that was his subordinate. Nearly every world had such people, but the jobs that they were responsible for were different from one another. Some of them were responsible for guiding the wandering souls in the world of the living, some of them were responsible for extraditing the dead, and some were responsible for capturing the great divine arts practitioners that had escaped death. The orders of Udu and the world of the living were handled by them. Duqian world had once experienced a war at a world destruction level that had nearly destroyed it entirely. At that time, skeletons of the dead filled the open ground and there were corpses everywhere. The sun in Duqian world was extinguished, and nearly everything was plunged into darkness. However, among the endless darkness, countless specks of light came out, and under each of them was a similar elder coming forward to extradite the wandering souls. Back then, Duqian Devil King had luckily survived the Great War and become the ruler of Duqian. He had been considered young then and was hot-blooded. When he saw these messengers of death coming to extradite the souls of his Duqian people, he immediately went forward to fight, but he ended up severely injured and almost had his soul taken away. Because of this, when Duqian Devil King saw this messenger of death, he was still slightly afraid and didn't dare to say a word. Qin Mu asked respectfully, "May I ask where they had gone?" The elder raised his hand and pointed towards the darkness. "Carefree village. But they will never find that place and just get trapped. There's a messenger of death ready to take their souls." The babbling of water came from the riverside as the drenched men and women popped their heads out from inside it. They slowly walked towards the village with ashen faces, not saying a word. Paper boats flew out from the village, and these men and women boarded them. The paper boats then sailed into the darkness unhurriedly. The other Taoists in the village were greatly shaken and immediately moved far away from the strange elder. At this moment, they noticed that two of their comrades were not moving from their spots. On two of the paper boats that had sailed into the darkness, there were two figures that vaguely resembled the motionless people. The remaining three Taoists felt their hair stand on end. Long Jianan, who had donned a Daoist's outfit, was also shaking. She wanted to turn and run, but she didn't dare to escape because outside of the village was darkness. "Lower your head, don't look at that elder." An elderly Daoist came to realization and said immediately, "He is the messenger of death. If your gaze crosses with his, your soul will be taken away." Long Jianan and another young Daoist immediately lowered their heads, not daring to look at the elder anymore. Qin Mu's tone became even more sincere. "May I ask Tao brother for guidance on the location of Carefree village?" That elder continued to point to the darkness, not saying anything more. Qin Mu frowned. The direction in which this elder had pointed out was the living realm of the dead. There was another netherworld there, which was where Fengji was located. That time village chief and he had barged into the living realm of the dead, they had nearly not been able to come back alive. That place is not Carefree Village. May I ask our brother, where is the real Carefree Village? The elder shook his head and still pointed towards the darkness. Qin Mu asked again, but the elder was no longer talking. Qin Mu frowned, since he had no ability to travel through the darkness. Other than village chief, he reckoned it would be somewhat difficult for everyone else in the village as well unless they were able to carry the stone statues. He quietened down. There were no other sounds in the village, only the snores of the dragon Qin who had fallen asleep. After some time, there were no more corpses walking out from the water, and the little boat that the elder was sitting on disappeared into the darkness. Everything in the village returned back to normal, and it wasn't as cold as before. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. By then, only 3 Taoists were left in the village, while Qin Mu's side still had both Qin Devil King and the Dragon Qin. The worn-out stone statues gave off ghostly light that forced back the darkness in the surroundings. Qin Mu had a strange feeling, and he looked towards the female Taoist with a smile before asking the other 2 Taoist priests look very unfamiliar. Where are you from? Between the 2, one was much older than the other. Since Heavenly Devil Cult Master asked, I won't dare to hide from you. Us master and disciple are from Heavenly Star Catcher sect. This hermit is Daoist Kai Yun and this is my disciple Xiao Yun. The other 2 have also been this hermit's disciples, but luck was not with them and they had their souls taken away by the messenger of death. Qin Mu felt a deep veneration and said, so you're experts from Heavenly Star's Catcher sect. Its master is called Sect Master Luo Xinghe, am I right? Sect Master Luo is my teacher who has already passed away, Daoist Kai Yun said sadly. That day when Heavenly Devil Cult transported the mountain of Daoxiang City, my teacher died in the hands of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. I see. Qin Mu nodded. The cold wind in the darkness outside the village whooshed and howled. The few people in the village quietened down once again and didn't say a word. The 2 Taoists took down the sword cases on their backs and cleaned them carefully. Long Jianan smiled and gently stroked the earring hanging from her ear. Qin Mu stretched his hand into Dao Tai sack, but he didn't pull anything out as a smile remained on his face. Sparkling and translucent snowflakes floated down from the sky and landed around everyone. This night wasn't too peaceful, and the snow actually started falling as well. Qin Devil King saw that there was something wrong with the atmosphere and secretly kicked the dragon Qin. The fat dragon woke up and looked around before going back to sleep when he saw nothing abnormal. Qin Devil King was furious. What's the point of raising a lazy bum like him? The snow grew heavier and heavier, and soon everyone was covered in a layer of white. At this moment, one of the many names of Buddha sounded out, and everyone was astonished. This name of Buddha had come from the darkness. Qin Mu pulled out his hand from the Dao Tai sack, Long Jianan lowered her hand that was stroking the earring, and the 2 Taoists placed their sword cases down. Light came from the darkness, and a chubby-faced big-eared monk came walking in. Looking around, he placed his palms together. Benefactors, sorry to disturb. Qin Mu didn't dare to neglect him and immediately rose. We are also guests, so it's not considered disturbing us. Behind this senior monk walked a robust man who was covered in black hair. He had bulging muscles all over his body and was 5 yards tall. He had a thick devil chi around him and was like a human-shaped violent ape. With a monk staff in his hand, he cried out in astonishment, Young Yuan. Qin Mu was also indescribably astonished. He looked at the monk staff and recognized it as the Kakara staff that he had given to the devil ape. He cried out, Big fella! What are you doing here? You changed your form? The demon-like ape was surprised and delighted. He came forward to acknowledge Qin Mu before pointing to the big and fat monk, Baldy, little. Devil Ape then pointed at himself and said in a low, muffled voice, Great, Baldy, teach. Baldy, little. Qin Mu was confused and probed, What you mean is that this great monk is from Little Thunderclap Monastery? He found you and taught you abilities. He then left and came back to bring you back to Little Thunderclap Monastery. The Devil Ape nodded repeatedly. Everyone in the village was confused. Qin Devil King muttered, How did you even comprehend the meaning of what he was saying? Qin Mu was astonished. To be able to bring the devil ape to travel in the darkness meant that this chubby-faced big-eared monk was an existence on the same level as old Rulai and village chief. A godlike existence. Fear arose in Long Jiaonan, Daoist Kaiyun, and Daoist Xiaoyun's hearts. They secretly moved back as far as they could, to the point where they would enter the darkness if they went an inch farther. The three of them grumbled inwardly. The messenger of death earlier and now the little Rulai of Little Thunderclap Monastery were all people Qin Mu knew. Just a word from him could make them lose their lives. What they didn't know was that Qin Mu was also extremely nervous. Little Rulai of Little Thunderclap Monastery was a demon cultivator, a great demon that had defected from Great Thunderclap Monastery. He was a great demon king. His comprehension of Buddhism was extreme. He had once used a copper Buddha to suppress the centipede Xian Qing'er. That Buddha had then ended up getting pushed over by Qin Mu, who had made use of the ice tide to save Xian Qing'er. The chubby-faced, big-eared little Rulai looked really like a Buddha. He was like a living Buddha that had a dignified appearance. With a glance at Qin Mu, he said, "So it's little benefactor. Does little benefactor still remember spoiling my merit?" The eyes of Long Jiaonan and Daoist Kaiyun lighted up as hope was reignited in their hearts. Qin Mu said, "I remember." Devil Ape stood in front of Qin Mu and declared loudly, "Baldy, brother." Little Rulai looked at him and shook his head. "Don't worry, my enemy is coming, so I won't make a move now. My enemy is here, so stay, I'll go meet him." Just as his words were spoken, a laugh came from the darkness. "Little Rulai, you're pretty interesting to make a battle appointment late at night." In the snowy night, an elder wearing a bamboo hat walked into the dilapidated village covered in snow. Qin Mu was stunned and cried out, "Daoist Ling Jing." The elder raised his bamboo hat, and his gaze fell on the youth. He revealed a smile. "So it's the old sword god's disciple who borrowed Fengdu coins from me. Do you have the money to return now?" Qin Mu was embarrassed and replied honestly, "Those Fengdu coins were all spent." Long Jiaonan, Daoist Kaiyun, and Daoist Xiaoyun's complexion froze again. Another top-notch practitioner that was able to travel through the darkness arrived, but he was also someone who Heavenly Devil Cult Master Qin Mu was familiar with. How many godlike existences did this Heavenly Devil Cult Master know exactly? "It's not late to pay me back in the future." Daoist Ling Jing took off his bamboo hat and placed it beside a wall. Looking at little Rulai, he said without hurry, "Heavy snow and dark sky, what a great time for murder. Little Rulai, let us go farther away to fight." "All right." The two top-notch practitioners went into the darkness, and the village was silent once again. Qin Mu looked at Long Jiaonan and her two companions who were also looking at him. The few of them remained motionless. The devil ape saw this situation and was bewildered. Terrifying pulses came from far away, and the snow in the sky turned into fine rain pattering down. The divine arts of Daoist Ling Jing and little Rulai melted the heavy snow in the dark night, turning snow into rain. Snowflakes fell from the sky at times, but at others, they were turned into fine rain. It was hard to say for how long this lasted when suddenly the crows of roosters came from the darkness. The darkness rapidly surged back towards the west. And at this moment, Qin Mu, Long Jiaonan, Duqian Devil King, and the rest sprung into action. They instantly delivered killing blows at one another at nearly the same time. The dragon Qilin roared angrily and shook himself, revealing his true form. With blazing fire around his body, he raised his front claws to press down on the head of the red snake, pouncing over, smashing it into the ground. Qin Mu rushed toward Daoist Kaiyun's side in an instant, while Daoist Kaiyun's countless swords were blocked by Duqian Devil King, who was standing behind Qin Mu's back. The devil ape leaped up from behind Duqian Devil King and smashed his Kakara staff onto Daoist Kaiyun's head. Shi! A sword light pierced Daoist Kaiyun's chest, and with a flick of Qin Mu's finger, that sword light went slicing horizontally through the neck of Daoist Xiao Yuan, who was still in a daze as well. Long Jiaonan grabbed the tail of the huge snake, and it shrunk in size. The woman rose into the sky and disappeared in a flash. The corpses of Daoist Kaiyun and Daoist Xiao Yuan collapsed onto the ground. Qin Mu put away his sword and raised his head to have a look. Long Jiaonan had already gone far away, the speed of the red snake really fast. It wouldn't be easy to catch up to her. Tonight, the messenger of death will have wandering souls to take away. It's just a pity that we didn't manage to send Long Jiaonan on her way as well. This woman is indeed very intelligent. She had also managed to escape in the battle in Heaven Wave City. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief. Now that Long Jiaonan was left by herself, it would be difficult for her to achieve anything. If she dared to come after him again, she would certainly die. The main reason why this battle had gone so smoothly was mainly due to everyone's coordination. After all, Daoist Kaiyun's cultivation and strength weren't low, and he wasn't any weaker than Long Jiaonan. Since Daoist Kaiyun carried a sword case, it meant that he was most proficient in sword battles. With Duqian Devil King blocking his swords with his 8 arms, Qin Mu could rush to Daoist Kaiyun's side without any worry. The Devil Ape's power lay in his incredible strength. With the Kakara staff and Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, the Devil Ape's strength was enough to stun Daoist Kaiyun, so Qin Mu could take his life in a single attack. Long Jiaonan's battle prowess lay mainly in the huge red snake, which was almost a flood dragon from all the refinement. The dragon Qilin, however, was a perfect match for the red snake. Once he pressed down the red snake with his strength, Long Jiaonan was no longer able to save Daoist Kaiyun. Because of this, the old man was doomed. However, now that Long Jiaonan had escaped, Qin Mu wasn't able to chase her because he would definitely die if he went after her. His companions, Duqian Devil King, the Dragon Qilin, and the Devil Ape, sadly were not fast enough to catch up to her, so they could only let her escape. Big fella, did little Rulai of Little Thunderclap Monastery give you trouble? Qin Mu asked. The Devil Ape shook his head and pointed at himself. My name, Kong. Qin Mu waited for a moment. The Devil Ape was probably talking about his name in religion, but what religious name was only one word? Was it really Kong? And if not, then what was Kong? The Devil Ape thought that he had already understood and didn't say a word more. This Devil Ape treated his words like gold and would never say an extra one. It's good for you to follow Little Rulai to cultivate. Little Rulai knows Rulai's Mahayana Sutra and is a strange beast that achieved the Tao, so he's the most qualified to guide you on your cultivation. Qin Mu waved his hand and said, My elders are lost, so I have to go find them and can't stay here any longer. Come home when you're free, Linga misses you too. The two of them bade farewell. Qin Mu followed the direction pointed out by the messenger of death, and this time he no longer felt Long Jiaonan's gaze on him. The girl must have believed that she couldn't kill him and thus retreated. I wonder how the battle between Little Rulai and Daoist Ling Jing went. Even though Qin Mu kept thinking of that fight, finding village chief and the rest was more important. He sat down on the forehead of the Dragon Qilin, who began running forward, while Duqian Devil King chose to stand on the back, his 4 faces looking in 4 directions to take note of any movement in the surroundings. The deeper they went into great ruins, the stronger the strange beasts became. The abilities of some of them were no inferior to those of the Dragon Qilin or the huge red snake. Luckily, most of these strange beasts had their own territories. Having lived in great ruins since he was young, Qin Mu was quite the expert in differentiating between the territories of strange beasts, so they could easily avoid them on their journey and stayed relatively safe. If we continue on, we'll reach Eastern Heavenly Gates. Qin Mu recalled the geographical map of Great Ruins and the place in it called Eastern Heavenly Gates. Besides it, there were 3 more places that had the name Heavenly Gates, and they were obviously Northern, Western, and Southern Heavenly Gates. At that moment, the Dragon Qilin suddenly stopped and sniffed the air. There's a scent of blood. This fellow is a huge dog and not a Dragon Qilin. Duqian Devil King thought to himself. Qin Mu's heart stirred slightly. Blood scent? Go and take a look. The Dragon Qilin followed the blood scent, and after a moment, Qin Mu saw an old Daoist in the distance leaning against a tree while panting heavily. Daoist Ling Jing. Astonished, Qin Mu immediately called the Dragon Qilin to a stop. He has placed a restriction around him, so don't step into it. Daoist Ling Jing raised his head weakly and took a glance at him. As he took a breath, he suddenly coughed violently and vomited out a mouthful of blood. The eyes of Sword God's disciple are extraordinary. I'm injured, so I placed a restriction around myself to avoid getting engaged by the strange beasts. Qin Mu said, Daoist, I'm proficient in the art of healing. Do you need my help? Daoist Ling Jing raised his hand and lifted the restriction. He wanted to get up but was unable to move, so he said while gasping for breath, come over. Qin Mu had the dragon Qilin walk to the tree. He then jumped down from the head to examine Daoist Ling Jing's injuries. This elder was heavily injured, and these wounds were probably caused by Little Rulai. The crucial point was that Daoist Ling Jing was pretty old and his body was not like what it used to be. This resulted in the injuries becoming even more severe, making it difficult for him to heal naturally. Qin Mu mumbled to himself as he took out the dragon's saliva to treat external injuries. He then took out a few spirit Buddha pills to repair the damage to Daoist Ling Jing's spirit. After that, he rummaged through his Daotai sack and took out some herbs he had bought in Imperial College for emergency usage. Even though there weren't many herbs, they were enough to create spirit pills for Daoist Ling Jing's injuries. Qin Mu made the spirit pills on the spot, with his hand techniques fast and perfect. Soon, a furnace of spirit pills was finished and he let Daoist Ling Jing consume them. The complexion of Daoist Ling Jing turned for the better, and he said in astonishment, the disciple of Sword God actually has such high attainments in the art of healing. Little Dao friend, won't you be my disciple? I have a lot of enemies and with you by my side, you could assure my safety. Don't worry, even though the old Sword God is powerful, what I can teach you won't be any worse than him. Qin Mu shook his head. I'm the cult master sacred teacher of heavenly devil cult, so I can't become your disciple. So it's the devil cult master. Daoist Ling Jing struggled to get up, then bowed in greeting with a respectful face. I thought I was above you in seniority, never expecting us to be senior brothers of the same seniority. Ling Jing pays respects to devil cult master. Qin Mu immediately returned his greeting. Senior brother Ling Jing is too polite. Your injuries are not a problem now, but if you want to get rid of them from their roots, you will have to nurse yourself to health. Daoist Ling Jing smiled. Seems like it was the right choice to give you those 2 fengju coins. The old sword god still owes me 2 fengju coins, but I reckon that guy won't return them to me. He's pretty stingy, having even chopped off one of my fingers back then. He opened up his right hand and said, see. The ring finger on his right hand was gone, and it was clearly a sword wound. If it was not for this broken finger, how would Little Rulai of Little Thunderclap Monastery have been able to injure me this heavily? However, his injuries are pretty severe as well. Without a divine physician at his side, I reckon he will have to roll back to Little Thunderclap Monastery and suffer for 2 to 3 years before fully recovering. Daoist Ling Jing let out a pent-up breath. That fellow is younger than me and has a good foundation. He was the disciple of the previous Rulai and is the junior brother of the current Rulai. When the previous Rulai passed on the position to his senior brother, the little Rulai was indignant and felt that the reason why the previous Rulai had not passed on the position to him was because he was from the demon race, so he had slaughtered his way out of Great Thunderclap Monastery and founded Little Thunderclap Monastery. That's right, why are you wandering in the depths of great ruins alone? Qin Mu mixed a few herbs together and brewed a medicinal decoction. The elders of my village have lost their way, so I've come out to look for them. Elders of your village? Daoist Ling Jing was bewildered. It's none other than Old Sword God and the other elders. Among them are Jade Face Poison King, Thief God, Ma Wangshan, and also my heavenly devil cult patriarch. Her senior brother met them. Daoist Ling Jing was startled. Suddenly, he began laughing until tears almost rolled down his cheeks. The injuries that had just fused split open once more and made this elder suck in a cold breath from the pain. Old Sword God and Heavenly Devil Cult Patriarch have lost their way. These two old goofballs, they actually lost their way. He laughed until he couldn't breathe, and Qin Mu immediately said, "Stop laughing, your wounds have opened up again." Has senior brother seen them? I haven't. Daoist Ling Jing shook his head. Qin Mu then took out the portraits of Old Ma, Granny Sai, and the rest to ask, in that case, what about them? Daoist Ling Jing took a look at the paintings and pondered. I saw this blacksmith carrying a chest. His speed was very fast and his ability was no weaker than mine. When I met him, we even competed with our leg power. He didn't say a word and had a weird temper. It's rare to meet this kind of strong practitioner, but I had never heard of such an expert before. Qin Mu's spirit was aroused. That's Grandpa Mute from my village. Does senior brother know where he went? Daoist Ling Jing replied, he went into a restricted area. It's very treacherous there, so it's one of the most dangerous grounds in Great Ruins. I chased him all the way to that dangerous land but did not go in. He's a mute? No wonder he gave me the cold shoulder when I was talking to him. Grandpa Mute went to a restricted area in Great Ruins. Qin Mu became nervous again, and he thought for a moment before asking, has senior brother heard of Carefree Village before? Carefree Village? Daoist Ling Jing shook his head. I've not heard of it before. Qin Mu muttered to himself irresolutely for a moment. Daoist Ling Jing frequently wandered around Great Ruins and knew numerous secrets that no one else knew. If even he didn't know where Carefree Village was, Qin Mu had little hope to find Carefree Village by himself. He pondered over it before suddenly asking, Senior brother, can I ask you for a favor? I would like to go to the living realm of the dead once more. Daoist Ling Jing smiled. This is simple. When the night comes, I'll bring you there. Qin Mu calmed himself down and healed the others' injuries, so when the night arrived, Daoist Ling Jing had pretty much recovered. He immediately brought them into the darkness of Great Ruins and said, Living realm of the dead is the territory of the King of Hell. This world is very mysterious and the two worlds only overlap at night. If you want to enter the living realm of the dead, you need to have Fengju coins. I've signed a contract with the King of Hell to not go to Yudu after I die but straight to Fengju. Looking around, he took out a token and shone it towards the darkness. The origin of Fengju is very weird. It doesn't have a fixed location but floats here and there in Great Ruins, creating a very mysterious world by itself. I have a token of Fengju, so as long as I activate it, an envoy of Fengju will come and fetch me. Just as he was saying that, a light came shining over from the middle of two large mountains. Daoist Ling Jing immediately brought Qin Mu over there. That light was sometimes bright and sometimes dim, guiding them on their way. Without noticing it, they passed by a couple large mountains and got closer to that light only to see it was but a ball of a will-o'-the-wisp which suddenly vanished. The jade pendant on Qin Mu's chest gave off a ghostly light then and slowly floated upwards to lead the way. Daoist Ling Jing brought Qin Mu and the rest forward until they passed through what felt like a formless barrier. The sight in front of them suddenly changed and a vastly mysterious living realm of the dead appeared in front of them. There, they could only see a small boat sailing unhurriedly through the sea of fog among the countless white-bone mountains. Daoist Ling Jing brought Qin Mu and the rest to the boat, and the skeleton inside brought them into the dense fog. After some time, they reached the docks. The stone tablet of the living realm of the dead was right in front of them. Daoist Ling Jing asked curiously, Devil Cult Master, what are you coming here for? Your cultivation is too weak, so even if you sell your soul, Fengju won't want it. Qin Mu walked forward, passing by an empty village. After crossing the huge mountain in front of them, he saw the incomparably large moon ship that lay in front of Fengju. It was like a three-legged toad that was carrying an enormous ship. Once he said solemnly, I'm here to borrow a ship. Borrow a ship? Daoist Ling Jing was stunned for a moment while Qin Mu sprinted over rapidly. He broke through in no time and landed on the moon ship in a few steps. On his chest, the jade pendant which he wore since he was young floated up even higher, and the light coming from it became even brighter. Dutian Devil King looked around, incredibly shaken as he muttered, Is this a god artifact? Visitor from Carefree Village. On the moon ship which was in a mess, the ruined star in the sky turned into fireballs which descended non-stop, making the situation quite dangerous. A strange, trembling voice rang out. You're from Carefree Village. What are you here for? I'm not a betrayer, I only escaped. Their deaths are not my fault, they are not my fault. I'm just a coward. Qin Mu looked toward the source of the voice and came to the center of the moon ship. In the middle of several huge pillars, a face of several acres that was stuck to the ground looked at the jade pendant floating in front of his chest in terror. Not my fault, I didn't betray my tribesmen, that face shrieked. Qin Mu hesitated for a moment, then let out a shaky breath and stretched out his palm to touch one of the pillars. Daoist Ling Jing frowned. I've been here before and there was nothing here except for this lunatic. I've checked these pillars before as well, but there were no abnormalities. Don't touch, that face shouted in despair. When Qin Mu's palm touched the huge pillar, an incomparably terrifying energy suddenly came pouring into his body. Cracking sounds rang out all around him as his body grew taller and bigger. The divine energy that came pouring in caused his body to undergo a dramatic transformation. He felt his tailbone growing frantically, turning into a third leg that grew out from his back and landed steadily on the ground. Bones and flesh also rapidly grew under his armpits, turning into arms. Bang! 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 Qin Mu stretched out his arms and grasped the other pillars. Everything in his surroundings seemed to shrink rapidly, but that was just a misconception. He was actually the one becoming larger. Due to the divine energy of Moonship reconstructing his body, deafening explosions came from his body. This noise originated from all the divine treasures opening within him. In the blink of an eye, 6 directions, 7 stars, celestial being, and life and death divine treasures had all opened up. The divine bridge divine treasure had even opened up and reached straight to the opposite shore. Qin Mu couldn't resist howling, and as he did so, the incomparably enormous moon ship gradually stood up. Then, the broken moon floated into the distance. This video will end here.